Okay, today we will be installing a remote-controlled ceiling fan. Safety first, remember to wear PPE and turn the power off before performing any electrical work. Okay, if you're thinking about installing a ceiling fan, you must use a ceiling fan rated box like this. This one I bought at Home Depot for $5.47. It's a commercial electric CMB 150. 4.5 inches by 1.5 inches. It comes with the mounting hardware and a fitting and a ground screw and instructions. And you can see right there it says ceiling fan rated. That is important. You don't just want to use any standard J box because it won't support the weight of a heavy ceiling fan or a heavy chandelier. This has to mount to structure, and it has two different screw sizes, 10-24 and 8-32. That's why there's different hole screw sizes you see there. And there's knockouts on the side of this box and knockouts on the bottom of the box where you bring your wires in. And again, here's the instructions and the load rating for this box. Now, there's other types of ceiling fan rated boxes you can buy at your local home center. This one from Home Depot for $4. It's a pancake ceiling fan box. This one here is the kind you put up through the hole in the ceiling, and you turn those turnbuckles and it grabs against the 2x4s in the ceiling. This one also grabs the 2x4s, but this is if you have access to the attic where you can drive screws into the 2x4s. If you're replacing an existing light fixture, remember you also need to replace the junction box in the ceiling with a ceiling fan rated box. This option is great because you already have power going to the light fixture and an on and off switch on the wall like this. If you don't have an on and off switch on the wall like this, then you're also going to need to add to your project the cost and time for bringing power to a light switch, installing a light switch on the wall like so, and then bringing power up out of the light switch to the ceiling fan box in the ceiling, whether you use Romex or MC cable. Another option is you can do two switches, one switch for the light, one switch for the fan itself. So that's something you need to consider too. Do you want just a ceiling fan, or do you also want to have a light on your ceiling fan? This one, you turn on the light switch on the wall, but you can see it also has pull chains. You can turn the light on and off, or pull the other chain to change the speed of the fan. The ceiling fan we're going to be installing today is remotely controlled, meaning you don't have to turn on and off switches on the wall or reach up and pull on the chain to turn the ceiling fan on and off. If you have to cut a hole in the drywall in the ceiling, here's a great tool to do that. It has a little plastic bowl that contains the drywall dust, and it's an adjustable cutter that you attach to your cordless drill driver. It gives you a nice, clean, round hole, and you can adjust those cutters to the exact diameter of the ceiling fan box. You can see the two cutters there. You can see how they adjust in and out. Not a paid promotion, just a great little tool I wanted to tell you about to cut a hole in drywall. You can see it's quick and easy to put it together, attaches to your drill. So first thing we would do in the ceiling is measure from the wall over to where we want our ceiling fan to be located. There is a minimum distance a ceiling fan can be mounted away from a wall. Usually that's 18 inches. But you want to always follow the manufacturer's installation instructions. And usually the minimum height from the floor to the bottom of the ceiling fan blades is 7 feet minimum. It can be a little bit higher than that, but 7 feet is as low as you can go when installing a ceiling fan. So we're marking the center point of where we want to drill our hole. Verify with the box. So I had the cutters set to just slightly wider than the diameter of the box. Now we'll go ahead and assemble this cutter. It's pretty quick and easy and straightforward. You can see it just pushes on. You can see those are locked in place now. Then we'll install our plastic bowl. That's the dust cover. Because remember, you'll be drilling upside down on the ceiling. Obviously, in this demonstration, we're not upside down. And then you attach this whole assembly to your cordless drill driver. Remember to wear safety glasses. So let's see how this hole cutter works. Here's our center point. Now remember, before you drill into a ceiling or cut a hole in the wall to install a box, you need to know what's behind that drywall. because you don't want to accidentally drill into a pipe or an existing power wire, etc. And that's it. Quick and easy, contains the mess. Woo! There's a closer look at the tool. And you can see it gives you a nice, clean, round hole. I hope this helps you. So you can see up here in the attic, there is no 2x4 directly above where we want the fan to be installed, but we need to mount our box to structure. We're going to measure between the ceiling joists and install a 2x4 cross brace, and that's what we'll mount our ceiling fan box to. Now that I've cut our scrap piece of wood to act as our brace to mount our box to, I'm going to mark the drywall with an A and the 2x4 brace with an A. The reason I'm doing that is so I know exactly where my box needs to line up on this 2x4 brace, because I'm going to attach the box to the brace first and install the brace with the box as one assembly up here in the ceiling. And I scribed a line on this 2x4 brace where the edge of that 4-inch diameter hole is in the drywall. So I simply line up the edge or the perimeter of my box with that hole that I scribed. I'm just pre-drilling some tiny holes for my mounting screws. That way I don't worry about splitting the wood when I drive my screws in. Can you see they're really tiny? That's all you need. You don't need big holes, but small enough that you don't split the wood when you drive your screws in. And this box comes with the mounting screws. And again, my box is lined up with that line that I scribed on the 2x4. And that way I know when I go to install it in the ceiling, the box will fit inside the hole and be nice and centered. I'm just double checking. And now it's simply a matter of driving the screws into the wood. And that'll secure our ceiling fan box to our brace. And you'll note that I mounted it slightly off to one side so we have room for that knockout, or you can use a side knockout, because remember, you need to bring in your power wires into this box, whether you use Romex or MC cable. So again, in our demonstration, we would go up in the attic and determine where the brace needs to be screwed to the 2x4s in the ceiling. The instructions call for a 1/16 of an inch gap or space between the bottom of the ceiling fan box, or the opening of the box, and the ceiling. So it can be a slightly larger gap than a 1/16 of an inch, but a minimum of a 1/16 of an inch between the finished ceiling and where your ceiling fan box starts, if that makes sense. So in other words, you don't want the box flush with the drywall. And to get the spacing just right, I'm going to stack up some electrical tape and some washers. You can use whatever you have on hand to get that 1/16 of an inch gap. So you can see down below that box is recessed too high, so we need to bring it down just a little bit until we get the spacing just right. Now that we got our brace where it needs to be, I'm going to pre-drill my holes through the 2x4s big enough for the screw shank to go through, just to make it easier so I don't split the wood driving my screws in. And so the screws go exactly where I want them to go. We don't mess up the height of our brace. And I'll do that on both sides of our brace. Now that we got the pilot holes drilled, I'm going to drive in these 3-inch long countersink wood deck screws on both sides. This brace will be nice and secure, hold the weight of the ceiling fan. Okay, so I moved that 1/2-inch knockout plug. Now I'm going to go ahead and install my MC cable. So you can see this has a black hot wire, white neutral wire, and green ground wire. Whatever type of cable or wire you choose, make sure you use the correct connector for it to connect it to the box and secure it to the 2x4 ceiling joist. And if you use MC cable like I am, make sure you install your anti-short bushing inside here as well. You simply feed the wires through into your ceiling fan box and take this nut, go down underneath, and install the nut on the connector. Now we're finally ready to start assembling the ceiling fan. Here's a parts guide for this ceiling fan. We'll follow the instructions provided with the fan and install the ceiling plate to our ceiling fan box. Here's a quick view of the remote control it comes with. Pretty simple. Install the battery there. There's some tiny dip switches that have to match the dip switches up inside the receiver on the ceiling fan. Otherwise, it won't work properly. So just keep that in mind. And here's the receiver that'll go up inside the ceiling fan assembly. You can see all the wires. And there's those dip switches I was talking about. So those have to match the position of the dip switches on that remote control. But that's the receiver that'll receive the signal from the remote control. And this ceiling fan comes with the battery. There's the battery. Pretty self-explanatory how to install the battery in the remote control. And again, there's those dip switches I was talking about. I installed the ceiling plate to the ceiling fan box that we installed earlier. This is 2 screws, and I also used some washers to back up the screws and pulled my wires through. Now the instructions call for aligning the receiver up with that hook. The gap in the receiver needs to line up with that hook. Then the hole in the ceiling fan motor assembly slots onto that hook, and that enables you to hang the ceiling fan motor assembly while you do all your wiring. So it comes with really long wires, depending on if you want to make this a pendant type ceiling fan where it hangs from the metal pipe. This one's going to be flush mount, so I'm cutting those wires shorter. And now I'm just going through with my wire crimper strippers and stripping my wires back so we can make our wire nut connections. The instructions come with the wiring diagram. There's a little white antenna wire loop. Do not cut that. Do not strip that. And I like to start by connecting my green ground wires up first. And then simply follow the wiring schematic that comes with your ceiling fan. Okay, with the wiring done, we're going to install the canopy to this ceiling fan box with the screws provided. There's 3 screws. You install 2 of them, and then the canopy has slots that you install the canopy up onto, and then install your 3rd screw. Be careful not to pinch any wires. You can see you just swing the canopy up and install your 3rd screw. And then go ahead and tighten all 3 screws down. Okay, with the wiring complete, before we move on, I'm going to put power to it, check the light works, and check that the fan turns on and the different speeds work. Yep, everything works. Now we can proceed. Woo! So the next step is to install our ceiling fan blades. And there's mounting hardware that come with the kit. You simply slide them into these slots, install the screws and washers provided. You'll notice they're different color on each side. So you got to decide if you want the light color facing down or the darker color facing down, depending on your style preference. And the kit does come with some, like a balancing kit, like little stick-on weights. So when you go to turn your fan on, if you notice that the fan blades are wobbling or not spinning smoothly, you might need to use that little weight kit that comes in the ceiling fan box. Next step is going to be to get the light installed. So we install this white plate. There's 3 screws that attach it to the ceiling fan motor assembly. And this is a fluorescent fixture. This is not an LED fixture. So we're going to have to install the little fluorescent ballast next inside here. And there's just a little wire connector. And there's 2 screws that hold this mounting bracket for the ballast in place. And again, make sure you make your wire connections here. It only goes together one way, so you really can't screw that up. It just clicks in. And then next we'll take our round fluorescent lamp. And same thing, it's got a plug. Plug it in. And there's 3 little spring-loaded fingers that hold it up there. Like so. Pretty easy. Next, we're going to install the decorative trim piece and the glass bowl. And there's 3 screws that hold this in place as well. I'm going to go around and loosely install all 3 screws, and then I'll go back and tighten all 3 screws down. Makes it easier to line up the mounting holes with the screws. Okay, turn the power back on. We'll test the light with the remote control. We'll test the different speeds, low, medium, and high. The light works. I hope this video helps you. I want to tell you about a practical facilities maintenance handbook right quick. This is available in ebook and paperback format. It has common facilities documents, signage, tags, resource and training material, as well as common shop equipment drawings that you can use to fabricate shop equipment for your facility. The link for this book is in the video description below. Or if you need shirts, hats, mugs, or weather-resistant stickers for your facility, there is a link for this online facilities maintenance store in this video description below. I hope you find this helpful. Please like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment, and thanks for watching.